Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video, we're going to be going over both fun and broken builds. Basically, builds that do a lot of damage that also are going to give you a really good time, and we're going to start here by going over a Knight's Lightning Spear and a full Lightning build. I really like Knight's Lightning Spear because it's an upgrade over Lightning Spear, it's chargeable, and it does massive lightning damage. You're going to see here on the Fire Giant, we get a lot of damage. 2 uses there, 18,000 in total. That's pretty incredible. We're going to phase the Fire Giant, and of course, we have Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike we can use too. Of course, because we're going to have most of the same talismans overall, we can then switch to Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike here for Phase 2. That's going to give us around 12,000 damage. We ended up with a Poise Break because Knight's Lightning Spear itself does a little bit of poise damage, which I guess went into Phase 2 there. But overall, we took down the Fire Giant, lots of lightning damage, and a really fun build to boot. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know to run an awesome lightning build that could take down bosses. We have the Gravelstone Seal for the boost, of course, plus 25. We have the Jellyfish Shield. We're using the Rakshasa set. We have the Godfrey Icon. We have the Lightning Scorpion Charm. Ritual Swords Talisman. Phlox Canvas Talisman. Then we have the Lightning Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this build, we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 25 Endurance. We have 20 Strength and 14 Dexterity. That's so we could use the Jellyfish Shield. 80 Faith with the Faith tier. Then our buffs are going to be Golden Vow and Howl of Shabriri, and we're going to be using Knight's Lightning Spear and Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. And next up on this list, we have the Great Double Slash build. This is going to use the Great Katana with Double Slash. It's a little bit slower with Double Slash than what you would get with the Nagakiba, but you're going to get a lot of physical damage, even in Blood Affinity between 550 and 600, and a lot of bleed build up too. It's actually really fun to run this build. Now, with faster bosses, it's going to be difficult to get the entire thing off, but when you do, the 130-something bleed build up with 45 Arcane you get on the Great Katana and Blood Affinity is excellent. And you could use that with regular hits too, and you're going to get a lot of damage out of it. Do jump attacks, throw in regular hits, and then when you can and you have the time for it, use Double Slash for a lot of physical damage and bleed build up, and an impressive build for the Great Katana. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. Alright, let's go into equipment after using Double Slash one more time, of course. Again, it's going to be a little bit slower with the Great Katana, but the bleed build-up is amazing. We have the Blood Great Katana plus 25 with Double Slash, any seal for buffs. We have the Rakshasa set on. Could add the White Mask for more damage. Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Melissen's Prosthesis, Wing Sword Insignia, or Rotten Wing Sword Insignia if you have it. Thorny tier, Faith tier, and we're using Sleeping Pots, of course, against the Godskin duo. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 26 Endurance, we have 14 Strength, 45 Dexterity, 25 Faith with the Faith here. We have 45 Arcane for that Arcane Soft Cap, and our buffs are going to be Golden Vow and Flame Gripping Strength. And next up here, I've been using them so much lately, we have the Great Star Smasher build. This one's really fun if you like jump attack builds. You put these on a Colt, get decent bleed build up, get a ton of physical damage, and your jump attack damage with this is going to be excellent. Get some poise damage in there as well. This is one that I honestly think you'll love. If you like basically what's normally a strength build and then putting them on a cold, I would still consider it a strength build, not because it obviously doesn't work around your strength stat whatsoever, but it's still one of those big bonk builds that's much like a strength build where you're going to be getting around 3,000 damage per jump attack while getting in poise damage and, of course, a little bit of bleed build up too. But of course, the change up here is you're going to be using your Arcane stat for Occult Affinity. Now, you can run these in Heavy Affinity, but then you're not going to get the bleed build-up out of it. And of course, with Occult, because they have innate bleed, that innate bleed will scale with your Arcane stat, which is excellent, with no sacrifice in damage, which is something Blood Affinity would do. Quick question, real quick, for everybody that's watching this. If there's a build you want to see, if there's something I haven't covered yet, be sure to comment below. I'm definitely looking to do more fan-based builds upcoming soon. A lot of people put in build requests. I've done several of them lately. Last week, I even did a Goku build. That was a lot of fun. I had a really good time with that one. But if you have any build requests, be sure to comment below. Yeah, sometimes when I do a lot of these list videos, I forget what I have covered and I haven't covered. So if there's something that you want to see and you're a fan of my channel, be sure to comment that. And of course, I will do my best to get it done. There is one thing to mention, though. I will mention at the end of this video, I am getting surgery. Probably will have it by the time this video is released on my right thumb. So I might be out of it for a couple of weeks, but we'll see how that goes. I made a community tab post about it, and of course, everybody had really nice comments, by the way. I really appreciate those. There's so many people that have been amazing in this community, so many nice comments on that post. I wanted to thank everyone that commented on this post. Thank you so much. They were awesome comments, and it's one of the reasons why I love doing this. There's so many amazing people here. All right, we're going to jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know for an awesome Great Stars build. And we have 2 Occult Great Stars, plus 25 preferably, with Craig Blade, of course. We're using any seal for buffs, Gravebird Armor, and Rakshasa set. We have the Claw Talisman, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Blade of Mercy, Dagger Talisman, and then we have the Greenburst Crystal tier, Faith tier. Let's jump into stats. All right, and for stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 30 Endurance, 22 Strength, 13 Dexterity, 15 Faith. That's going to be 25 Faith with the Faith tier, 60 Arcane, of course, to make use of Occult Affinity. We're using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and Blessing Spoon for some extra HP. And next up here, we have the Savage Fire Knight build. We actually have 2 builds for the Fire Knight Greatsword. This is an awesome one. I can't believe I don't think I've actually done this one yet. It does a lot of damage with Savage Lion's Claw. I'm really enjoying the Fire Knight's Greatsword too. It was a great addition from the DLC. I feel like they didn't do enough for intelligence builds, but they did do enough for faith builds with the DLC. They added a lot, and adding a colossal weapon that you could add to pretty much any faith build, as long as you have those requirements, you can meet those 2-handed requirements for the strength stat and the dexterity stat. I think is around 18, of course. As long as you could hit that, there's a lot you could do with faith in this weapon. Of course, by the way, you could add any incantations you want to this build. I just really enjoy Savage Lion's Claw, and I like the Fire Knight's Greatsword just as a moveset as a whole. Of course, I'm using the Ash of War and showing that off here as much as I can. It's also doing a good amount of damage. If you land both, between 5,000 and 6,000, pretty solid there. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for a great Savage Lion's Claw build. And of course, we're going to show off the Ash of War one more time. The regular Lion's Claw might be better overall, but this one's a lot more fun. We have the Fire Knight's Flame Art Greatsword with Savage Lion's Claw. We have the Giant Seal. We're using the Rakshasa set a lot for the extra damage. We have the Ritual Sword Talisman, Fire Scorpion Charm. 2-handed Sword Talisman doesn't work on the Ash, but for any regular hits, Shard of Alexander, Flame tier, and Fate tier too. All right, now we're going to jump into stats for this one. We have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 30 Endurance, 22 Strength, 18 Dexterity. We have 70 Faith with the Faith tier, of course, to get a lot of damage out of the Flame Art Fire Knight's Greatsword. Of course, with the Rakshasa set, you're going to have less defenses, but you're always going to break 51 points, so there's a plus there. We're using Golden Vow for this one and Hellish Abriri as well. And here's the other broken Fire Knight's Greatsword build, and that's the Gravity Spin build with this. It gets a lot of bleed build up as a colossal weapon. You can throw on Gravity Spin with it, and overall, it has excellent AR and damage. This is going to give you insane hyper armor too. You're rarely going to be knocked out of this, and the damage you can see is going to be great overall too as you land it, especially when you get bleed procs too, because we went for blood affinity here. Overall, this is definitely one I have a really good time with, and I love this Ash of War and the weapon itself too. For those that know my channel know I love faith builds, but I went for blood affinity here to go for a couple bleed procs and try to take advantage of Gravity Spin, because this is just a really cool Ash of War. The Sword Lance, adding that was a great weapon, and the Ash of War with it is really good too. We got a Poise Break in here, and we've been stacking up some damage. And of course, we're able to break the bear there for a final hit and a lot of damage on that one. The last Gravity Spin did around 9,000 too. If you get a bleed proc, it's going to be 12, 14,000. It's pretty incredible with Gravity Spin. Fire Knight's Greatsword, definitely a weapon you're going to want to pick up. Let's jump into equipment. And we have the Blood Fire Knight's Greatsword plus 25. We have the Dragon Communion Seal here. We have the Rakshasa set. The White Mask can add more damage. Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Millicent's Prosthesis, Wing Sword Insignia, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Thorny tier, Faith tier. Let's talk about stats. And for stats on this build, we have 60 Vigor, 16 Mind, 28 Endurance. We have 16 Strength. When we two-hand this, though, we'll be fine with the Strength requirement, 45 Dexterity, and 45 Arcane to hit some soft caps, 25 Faith with the Faith tier, and we're using Golden Vow and Flame Rim Strength. And next up on this list is Fire Faith for the win, the last Fire Faith build on this list. And this is a pretty incredible one using the Sword, Lance, and Flame Screwer. I usually use Flame Spear a lot, so I did a build for this one too. And of course, included some incantations as well because Faith allows for a ton of versatility. And of course, we're going to be using Giant's Flame Take Thee for massive fire damage. We have Flame Fall Upon Them too. That's a really good one. And then Black Flame Fireball, something simple you could use that does percentage of fire damage to add onto the build. And this, of course, is one of my favorite ones on the list because it uses some of my favorite incantations in combination with the Sword Lance. I mentioned the Sword Lance before. It's a really cool weapon. Try out a ton of different builds with this. There's so much you can do with it. Even in Blood Affinity, it gets a lot of bleed build up. And then as a Faith build, it works too. It has pretty good AR and a nice moveset. Yeah, this is one you're going to have a lot of fun with. I recommend it. All these on this list I made from a combination of making them do pretty good or great damage, and then, of course, making them fun as well. Stuff that I really enjoy on this list that I think you're going to enjoy as well, too. All right, let's go finish off this Shadow Tree avatar, which is now the Shadow Tree avatar, of course. I say that in all my videos now. For the longest time, I said his name wrong. I think we all did. But anyways, he is weak to fire, so he is going to take massive damage here. We're going to continue using our Ash of War in combination with incantations. I like the Erdtree seal, by the way, for its high scaling. Yeah, it ends up being a good combination with any seal. You could use the Erdtree seal in one hand if you can get close to 80 faith, 70, 80 faith or so, and then the other seal in the offhand would be for your passive boost. It works really well if you're trying to run a faith build because it has that kind of universally high scaling that works with anything. All right, and this fight goes on for a little bit, of course, because he has 3 phases. Another thing to ask real quick, out of curiosity, what other games are you guys playing in terms of Souls or Souls-like games? I'm curious as to that too. Be sure to comment that below as well. I've asked that recently. I think a lot of people still play Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, etc. But I'm curious what else you're playing other than Elden Ring and its DLC. I'm still where, like, nothing compares yet to Elden Ring. I keep trying other games. Black Myth Wukong was pretty fun overall. I recently played Silent Hill 2. I like because it's horror and I really enjoyed it. And honestly, it ended up being better than I thought it would be. But overall, I keep going back to Elden Ring because it's just so good. Let's jump into equipment here. We have the Sword Lance in Flame Art with Flame Screwer. We have the Giant Seal, Erdtree Seal. We have the Rakshasa set. We have the Shard of Alexander, Fire Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman, Godfrey Icon, Flame Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats for this one. All right, and our stats for this awesome Fire Faith build are 60 Vigor, 21 Mind. We have 26 Endurance, 22 Strength, so we could use the Sword Lance. We could one-hand it as well. 12 Dexterity, 70 Faith. We're using Golden Vow, Hellish Abriri, Giant's Flame Take Thee, Flame Fall Upon Them, and Black Flame. And the next one up here we have is the Big Target Fun build, and this one combines the Envoy's Longhorn with Pest Thread Spears. 2 awesome things. The Envoy's Longhorn obviously had that nerf, but it still does pretty good damage. We got around 4,000 per ash, which isn't bad, and then we're going to be using Pest Thread Spears too. This is like one of those builds that I've been using forever, and I never get tired of it for bigger bosses that are in the game. Yeah, the Envoy's Longhorn, that nerf really hurt. I felt like it was kind of unnecessary because it was a really fun weapon, but it's still pretty good. And then, of course, Pest Thread Spears is pretty broken and does a ton of damage to big targets. Crazy part about that one is that Pest Threads itself wasn't actually that bad, and then they added Pest Thread Spears, which is an upgrade from Pest Threads, chargeable of course too, and does massive physical damage. It really is an amazing incantation. If you haven't tried it yet, be sure to pick it up. You could pick it up right before Romina Saint of Bud in the DLC, and it is one of those things where once you use this against bigger targets, you're really not going to put it down much, and you could actually use it against the big furnace golems too. When you have to take out their legs, it does a lot of damage to them. They actually poise break based on damage, not poise damage, and you could shred them with Pest Thread Spears. And of course we end up trading here, but Placidusa, or Placiusa, however you say his name, he goes down, of course, and we take down the big dragon. We're going to move on to one more build here, and then at the end I'm going to say a few things about the upcoming channel and whatnot, updates and all that stuff. Let's jump into equipment before we do that. Stats, everything you need to know for this one. Update on the channel, of course. Erdtree Seal, we have the Envoy's Longhorn, we have the Jellyfish Shield for incantation. We're using part of the Rakshasa Celt and the Envoy's Helm. We have the Ritual Swords Talisman, Godfrey Icon, Shard of Alexander, Phlox Canvas Talisman, Holy Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And the next build, by the way, is not a Faith build. It's actually going to be a Magic build. It's a pretty good one. We have 60 Vigor, 23 Mind, 23 Endurance, 20 Strength, 15 Dexterity, 80 Faith with the Faith Tier for great scaling. We only have 47 poise here. I guess you could have a little bit more. I was a little bit close on the weight. We have Golden Vow, Hellish Abriri, and of course Pest Thread Spears, which again is one of my favorite incantations. Now we have the next one up here and the final one on here, and that's the Moonveil Battlemage build. This combines Moonveil with using any spells that you want to use as a pretty strong intelligence build. So if you didn't know, I've mentioned it in recent videos, covered it once or twice already. Moonveil actually got an update in terms of its damage because Rolana's cameo is easier to use now, and when you hold it for about 1 second, you get a damage boost, and Moonveil ends up being one of the best weapons in the game now. In my opinion, it's actually pretty great. And of course, we went for more damage on the beam here and higher intelligence, so you could use spells too if you want to. The combination actually ends up being excellent. The only thing I don't like about this clip is I ended up switching to Glintstone Icecrag for the final part of the fight, and obviously I could have taken him down with Moonveil, but I would have probably preferred Comet or Night Comet. If you have the Staff of Loss, that would be great, and then regular Comet would work well as too. I didn't really get a lot of damage out of Glintstone Icecrag is my point here. I was going for Frost build up. It just took a little longer than I expected it to. Yeah, I would have thought I would have gotten a Frost proc. I don't know what Horalu's resistance is to Frost. I honestly don't know that one. I know a lot of the resistances in the game. I know he's probably somewhere in the moderate range in terms of bleed and Frost resistance, but definitely not immune by any means. Anyways, Glintstone Icecrag didn't do as much as I wanted it to, so I would prefer in the future to switch to Comet or Night Comet for massive damage in between using Moonveil and to give you a ranged option on top of your weapon. And that would no doubt make your build better too. That's going to make your build super OP, having the ability to use Moonveil, which is even better now, and then switch to great spells like Night Comet, and even regular Comet works as well with Lucett's Staff. Let's jump into equipment and stats. And we have Moonveil preferably +10. We have Lucett's Staff +10. We have any seal for buffs. We have the Rakshasa set on for the extra damage. We have the Magic Scorpion Charm, Godfrey Icon, Shard of Alexander, Rolana's cameo, of course, which is really good now. We have the Magic tier, Faith tier. Let's jump into stats. All right, and here we go. This is a really solid build overall. You're going to get a lot of damage out of the beam from Moonveil. We have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 23 Endurance, 12 Strength, 20 Dexterity. We have 60 Intelligence, 33 Faith with the Faith tier. And of course, we're using Golden Vow, Halash Shabiri, and then Comet or Night Comet would be great, Glintstone Icecrag, and Terra Magica. Now, last week, if you didn't catch my video, I actually did a build for Goku, and then I did a build for Carrion Sovereignty that ended up turning into an amazing build. Be sure to check that out in the description after this video, and check out the description also for a discount at NordVPN. You can help support the channel out as well. And thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning in to my combination of broken and fun builds. Fun builds that are a little bit broken too, that do good damage. Now, I want to go over the update real quick for my channel. So 2 days before this, because this will probably be Sunday and Friday, I had the surgery. I would have surgery on my right thumb. I had an issue with an inflamed nerve that they have to fix. Recovery is around 2 to 4 weeks, so it could be a little light on videos. I'll keep everybody posted, of course. And check out my community tab if you want a full update on it. Can't wait, and catch you guys in the next one.